All dinos are obsolete. Not really. Oh, it's not quite like the silent cartographer in Halo 1, but still. It's raining warthogs. I mean, jeeps. Oh no, the jeeps. Welcome back. I'm Jade Monkey, and today we'll be looking at Ragnarok, the Highlands zone. We did do 2 previous videos on Ragnarok and other zones, the Jungle Zone and the Viking Bay Zone. You can check out those videos here in the upper right-hand corner. Now, if you've noticed, the map is already out for the PC. It was supposed to be out for all of us on the consoles. That's Xbox One and PS4. But they have delayed it twice on us. So, knock on wood, they said it was going to be the 19th of July. Now, as of recording this, that is true, and that came directly from the Twitter from the devs. I'll also try to post an update and pin it in the comments below there. I know a lot of people have been saying clickbait and everything else, and I'm like, no, this is for everybody. It's the same map. And that also reminds me that we will be doing a live stream of Ragnarok and also Destiny 2 beta. Those happen on the same day, oddly enough. So if you want to see notifications for that, go ahead and subscribe, and you can hit the little bell there next to the subscribe button if you're already subscribed, and you can see or get different notifications for different things, live streams, videos, all that good stuff. So if you want to, check it out. Alright, let's go cover this bitch. Alright, and the various spots that we will be covering during this Highlands Zone video will be the Cursed Shores, the Hot Springs, the Cursed Plains, the Dragon's Trench, and of course, what the zone's named after, the Highlands Zone. The first place we'll cover is the Hot Springs in between the Great Plateaus here in the center of the screen. You can see that depicted by the very large mountain. And you can see this kind of green area in between these crusty, burnt areas, and this is more or less the Hot Springs. Let's go ahead and do a nice flyover right now. See a lot of herbivores down here. The Gallimimus. I look like a Dr. Seuss. You can still see some of the RGs here in the Hot Springs zone, which I think is going to be so critical, especially when you're starting off in this map. I've said this in previous videos. I'm not entirely sure how the transfer is going to work. I've heard initially that it was going to be, if you do have a transfer server, it's not going to be open for the first month to 2 months. I've heard conflicting things. So I'm not sure how that's going to stand. I don't know if the transfer servers are going to be day one. Last I heard, that is the case. But again, unconfirmed. All of that's unconfirmed. So, I mean, it's anyone's guess. It basically, if it's going to be a transfer since day one kind of thing, I think everybody knows what that's going to be. That's going to be mega tribes coming in fisting the ever-living shit out of the servers. I hope it's not, for everybody's sake, because it would be more fun if it was more restricted in the beginning, but still. If it is going to be that, I say everybody just get ready for the mega tribes to come in and do the old fisting, especially with all the the duping glitches that have been going on recently. Everybody kind of knows that the big tribes have been doing that. Unfortunately, I don't condone that. Oh, what is this? Hang on a second. Did I get a buff? I didn't notice this before. Relaxing at the pond. Ah, what is that by the hot springs? Interesting. Okay, I think we found a mechanic here. I was unaware of this. Yes. Okay, cool. So the hot springs definitely have a purpose. If you touch it, you have a buff. I'm not sure what that buff does, if it's an XP boost or if it helps with your temperature. Who knows? Nice. Looks like we've got some obsidian and whatnot here. Always nice. I'm going to just throw up the old GPS. If you guys are interested in that, you can check it out. But you can see a lot of these really great resources in the beginning. So metal, obviously. Obsidian is probably less valuable to you in the very beginning, but by no means is it a lesser value resource. It's just something you're not going to use initially. I mean, because obsidian is, I think, one of the mid to late game resources that's very, very crucial. Let's see if we get the hot springs bonus by touching these. Nice. Okay, so apparently any hot springs out here is going to give you that bonus. As far as what it is, I don't know. But when I do figure it out, I will post it and pin it. So, yep. Ooh, hey, it looks like we got an Ovis. It's our buddy. That's interesting how this kind of comes into these different zones right up here, and you get all kinds of mixture of goodies. This map is, I think this map's great. Even though I know it's halfway done, I still think this map is tight. Hot Springs seems to have a pretty good mix of beginning resources. We do have a few trees here in the back next to the Great Plateaus, more towards the mountainous area, which is nice. So moving back here to do your initial raft gathering, or even just like popping some hide on some of these lower creatures, is going to be nice. Because we all know it's about that crafting raft game in the beginning. But as you move more into the hot springs, you're going to see less and less of the trees. The cursed plains, the Great Plateaus, and you can see this hot springs band as it comes up here. You can see the hot springs, and we'll say that the hot springs ends by this cooled lava channel that goes through and goes into the ocean. That's a good way to see it. So it's not terribly big, but should be good for beginners. And it also has beach access, which I believe is very important, especially if you're doing rafts. On to the next zone. Oh, yeah. Alright, hopefully this isn't too loud. I did not have the record on for the whole Cursed Shores. So, coming from the hot springs here, stopping at the cooled lava lake, you can see the Great Plateaus. You can see Blue Ob just over the top of the hill, Stone Isles there on the right, and you can see Red Ob, and you can see the Volcano Plains, or I think this is called the Cursed Plains in its entirety from the wiki, because again, those zones kind of encompass lots of things. Now, we're going to call this the Cursed Shores, all the way from that green zone there, and all these trees that speckle through this charred zone, all the way up until this point, basically where that cooled lava lake ends. And this whole entire region is the Cursed Shores. So, working our way through the Cursed Shores themselves, on this end here, you can see this whole entire place is peppered with these trees, which is great. It's definitely a resource that you need in the very, very beginning, and it has water access, so again, this is going to be prime time for a lot of people. Ooh! It's a horse! And he's being chased by a micro raptor, I think. Run for your life! You can see a lot of the easier dinos down here, from the Gallimimus to some of these herbivores down here, and it gradually gets more difficult. We've got these trilobites here in this little pool, and we have some of these shader artifacts happening here. It looks like those rainbow things. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's on this build or if it'll carry over to Council, but anyways, moving eastward in the Cursed Shores and looking back towards the west is toward the Great Plateaus and the Stone Isles, and there's the hot springs there that kind of weasels its way up over the hill. Now, as you gradually work your way east towards the Highlands, which is the green zone and the hills there, you can see the dinos definitely start to ramp up. You're going to see more of these Arthropleura, which are devastating to any kind of gear. Like any kind of gear. You're seeing more snakes and definitely more Arthropleura. And then you'll start to see as we get to the base of the volcano here. Let's see if we can see one. Oh, there's one. Mantises. And it definitely gets more difficult. Now, if you're playing this right, oh look, spiders too. Ugh. Gets more difficult, but these, I mean, if anybody's played Scorched Earth, you know that harvesting the mantises is so awesome for organic, just like the kariku, the penguins. They're fantastic, but they can also wreck your face if you're not equipped for it. Now, as you start to weasel your way through here, you can also see more of these trees, which is pretty distinct thing about the Cursed Shores here. There is going to be ground access to the lower portion of the Dragon's Trench, and I think we're heading right there. I'm going to bust out the old GPS so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, this place is extremely hot. It goes from kind of hot to really hot as you enter the cave, and we'll cover this later when we actually hit the Dragon's Trench, but this is one of the lower foot portions you can actually enter. Would you want to? I don't know. It goes from 80 something, like 81 to 109 very quickly. Or 110, depending on the day. So, working our way back out through this area. You can see the end of the Cursed Shores that comes right up against the Highlands, which is the more lush green and actually plains-looking zone. Alright, so on the Cursed Shores, just past the Dragon's Trench, we'll call that foot access down there. As it starts to go into the sandy beach area just before the Highlands, you're going to see some beached, not whales, but I can't think of the name of the dino, but let me zoom up and see if we've got it up here. Still, there he is. Okay, there were 3 total that I just saw here. I harvested the 2. But you'll see these here, and they should respawn, and these give up keratin, spoiled meat, and hide. Very useful, especially if these things pop in on a regular basis, so keep that in mind. So the Cursed Shores is not a bad place to get started and eventually work your way up, even, dare I say, mid to late game resources with the organic. Making this, I think, a valuable shore, I think, at any step you're at in the game. Alright, on to the next zone. Onward! So, looking on the map, we just came from the Cursed Shores, heading over to the Cursed Plains. Now this does share a border with the Cursed Shores here. You can see it off to the right. There's the Great Plateaus, excuse me, the hot springs, and there's the Cursed Shores. We were just there. Now, the Great Plains, I'm sorry, the Great Plains, what am I saying? The Cursed Plains includes, and this is kind of a misnomer, this volcano and the backside of this volcano. So you can see there are a lot more arthropleura up here, also coupled with more mantises. I don't know what the plural form of mantis is, but more mantises. You can see some more of the obsidian down there, center of the screen, roughly. Hopefully that guy didn't jump on me. That creeps me out. Ugh. Great places to do farming, and again, the gold nodes, the thick metal nodes, are pretty easy to spot up here because everything else is pretty dark. And we should see the actual volcano itself. I think in-game it's called Volcano Tippy Top. Oh, yep, it's already called Volcano Tippy Top. I think it's all the way up here. These little plateaus, you can see more resources. You've got obsidian cluster, more goldy nodes. Kind of a winding trail, and you can see a lot of these different resources as you go up. Not a bad place to harvest with a Quetzal and Anklo. And it looks like we even have some of these dung beetles chilling out here too, so keep that in mind. Those of you going Species X. Side note, please don't go too terribly deep with Species X on a map, like 100 in a cluster, because it makes the frame rate go to shit. Public service announcement. And we can see the Cursed Shores, some of this cliff edge here. And there's that ramp access that leads into both the Highlands, Dragon's Trench, and more importantly, these Cursed Plains, which were more on the volcano portion of that currently. A lot of mantises. Some of the dangers here is definitely going to be heat. The mantises, arthropleura for sure, just damaging your gear alone. Because if you're trying to protect yourself from temperatures here, and the arthropleura shreks your gear, you're going to be hurting pretty quick. And also, let's not forget the other hazard is the wyverns spilling out of the trench. They can very easily pull down to you and start just pooping on your day. Moving our way up from the Cursed Shores to the edge of the volcano, you can actually see the volcano itself. And you can really tell where the Cursed Plains begin and end because obviously we're down there by the Cursed Shores. You can see where it butts up here. It ends at the Dragon's Trench, these hexagon cylinders that are coming out of the ground here, and it butts up against the snow biome. And I think that's called Snowman's Hills. If I'm saying that correctly, that'll be in the fourth and final part for our Ragnarok series going through the map. But you can tell where this Cursed Plains begins and ends by these different zones here. And even though it is called Plains, it does include that volcano, as we said before. You can see this is very resource heavy. There are a lot of mantises, metal nodes, obsidian, a lot more beefier dinos. You're going to see T-Rexes, higher level dinos up in this area because this is where most of the cache is at. So on top of this hill you're going to see a lot of these crystal nodes, which is fantastic. Alright, working our way from the volcano to the, let's call that the Crystal Hills. In this dip here, just before you head up above the snow biome, you can see more of the cursed plains. This is all included in the cursed plains, by the way. You can see these charred trees here past this cooled lava river, and it's not to be underestimated. Any step you can take off of or cut out of your bullet making process is fantastic. So these charred trees are super great for charcoal, and you can do it on bulk. This is going to be worth your while for sure. So you definitely, if you're a bigger tribe here, you definitely don't want people fucking around with your charred trees, because this is going to be money. Mid to late game, money. You can see more of these guys here. Now you'll see a little bit of obsidian spackled in here, but for the most part this is like a charred tree alley that leads into the hot springs there. And you can see Blue Ob pretty clearly from here. Alright, so heading back towards the... this be west? Let's verify that. West, yes, okay. Back over the charred trees in the back end of this. There we go, it's daytime. Okay, we're in the back of the cursed plains still. That's our charred alley there. A charred tree alley. Now you can see a couple features here. Ooh, more crystals. I didn't even know there were crystals up here. Okay, so noted on the GPS coordinates, but more on the back of the cursed plains you're going to see more of these crystals. That's awesome. I didn't even see that there were that many clusters back here. That's fucking tight. And you can see into the canyons here, and this is kind of a weird zone that wraps in there as well. So we'll say that the cursed plains goes up against the canyons here, and it's also part of this land bridge that goes across. We'll fly over it real quick so you can get a feel for it. But on the upper portion, not the lower, but you can cross here from the cursed plains into the canyons, so keep that in mind. Give you a little GPS and show you where we came from. And that's our charred tree alley leading into the hot springs there where we started. That'll cover most of the overview here for the cursed plains. Let's move on to the next zone. Yep, buddy. Alright, our next zone is a fantastic feature on this map, which contains wyverns, is the Dragon's Trench. These large hexagonal cylinder shapes, it's very similar to the Scorched Earth. These shapes were jutting out from the World Scar. This is really where the Dragon's Trench happens, and again, very dangerous, especially when you're starting off, because wyverns come out of here on the regular. Now you can see a couple land bridges, and I don't know how accessible this is from the other spot. Yeah, you can get to that on foot. I'll bust out the old GPS and bring up the overlay again. I wouldn't recommend walking through here on foot initially. You will definitely get clipped pretty quickly, and this works very similar to the Scorched Earth World Scar, and you'll see a lot of these various eggs down here. Holy shit burgers. And this is why this place is fucking dangerous. Oh jeez, that is still scary even though I've got tech on. My goodness. And you can see more of the eggs down there. Oh jeez, they're pissed. Dude, DIP? Oh my goodness. Let me finish the Dragon's Trench! Get off my nuts! And this is a great example of why this place is dangerous. Once you pull aggro and anything else is close, these guys are going to be up your ass. Now, a lot of the same techniques you did in Scorched Earth, making little traps out in the open, you know, winding them in there, kiting things in, using other dinos to squash them out, is definitely still viable here. I mean, take a look at the Highlands plains here. I mean, you can do a lot of various traps and whatnot. Let's go ahead and smoke this guy. Get out my face, bitch! Paw on it. Alright, so we'll see how far we can get in here before we get wrecked again. You can see the entrance to the bottom portion of the Dragon's Trench. And we have all kinds of resources, from crystal to sulfur nodes down here. And you can see the nests on the side of the walls here, just like in Scorched Earth. And the Dragon's Trench is multi-tiered. You can see it there as the lava pool goes down. And you should see most of the dragon's nest in this upper portion. Although I could be wrong, maybe they spawn in different zones. I did see cutouts down there, but a lot of the same mechanics from Scorched Earth. I like identical. Oh jeez. Jeez, I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Hey, you have some more foot access here for some of these wyvern nests. I mean, other than this being a wyvern zone, there isn't a whole lot to this area. It's fairly small. And again, if you've done any of this on Scorched Earth, this is going to be very familiar to you. With the exception of having ice wyverns. Holy shit. Oh my goodness, get off it. Okay, so the Dragon's Trench, there's not much to it. This is very similar to the Scorched Earth. And this is basically where you do all your wyvern action. From wild to grabbing eggs. Alright, on to the next zone, which is our last and final zone, the Highlands. This place is fantastic, and it's real easy to see where this place begins and ends because it's pretty much, it's like Ireland. It's very green, rolling hills. And I found quite a few interesting features. Not only the fact that you've got this nice bald spot right next to the Dragon's Trench where you can make dragon traps. You do see Gigas out here. You do see Allosaurus's. I did see a Titanosaur around here somewhere. But again, with this body of water that cuts through the middle, there's a lot of interesting features around this as well. It's just, I love the Highlands. I love the way it looks, maybe because it reminds me of the homeland. Ireland. Oh look, and we've got some obsidian in the rock bed here next to the river. Oh, that's real nice. Look at that, some goldies. Again with the sneaky nodes down here. Now I wonder if some of these green plants down here are what I think they are. You can see I just picked up a savo root, something that was already grown, which is awesome. So it looks like these green plants right here next to the bridge is going to be, I believe, a savo root. Look at that, dude. You don't even have to grow that shit. Okay, so in these ruins right here, I'm going to bust out the GPS. But you can see right here, it's a garden zone, and it's got rock carrots and savo roots. What? It's got the seeds and the full-grown plants. That's badass. And this isn't the only spot for this here in the Highlands. I don't know if this is in other spots in the map. I certainly haven't noticed it. Any kind of ruins you can see here that actually have a garden in it do include already grown advanced crops. That's a better way to describe it. You can see more savo root and more rock carrots here. So yeah, I'm going to bust out the old GPS so you guys can take note of this. And if you want to do a land grab for these spots, I'd recommend. This is awesome. Not only for finding some of these ecus, I think I'm saying that right. You can come over here, pick up these rock carrots, and just start taming horses. Highlands is beautiful. It's got a lot of sneaky resources, not only in the shoreline here, you can see it, but definitely in the rock faces you can see a lot of metal nodes, from the dirty nodes to the goldy nodes. And you can see a body of water here, and there's definitely more clusters of metal nodes here. Yep, you can see it right there. And just up the hill, we just hit this a second ago, was one of those gardens. And lo and behold, there is a drop that happens there. Nice. Make sure the GPS is out so you know what I'm talking about. And you can see more metal inside this body of water. Amazing. But as you cut inland off the Highlands, and this is the ocean here, there's a couple fairly large features. And now I did build something in here for a spawn, so you'll see what I'm talking about here in 1 second. But as we work our way inland off the shoreline, you can see here's another feature. This is amazing. Now I'm not sure if there's 6x inside of this cave, and you can see my little spawn area right there, but there's definitely places you can harvest. I don't know if there's fish in here. Nope, but there's definitely metal. Alright, so as following this body of water that goes up, this is harder to see, but this is awesome. It's really low, and I flew over this a couple times and missed it. But as you walk up in here, this is a small cave that has a lot of crystal inside of it. I'll go ahead and show you the cords again. I like it. Alright, so more towards the pointed rocks, we're kind of doubling back here. There's the bridge with more of those metal nodes. Around these rocks, you can see more of these. Is that Allosaurus out there? Yep. Different resources, again, gold nodes down there. Metal cluster. Gold node on top of the spires, the pointed rocks. And again, more mountainous terrain usually yields more of those metal resources. Now, the trees are a little sparse out here for sure. You probably really want to pillar bomb a lot of those trees initially, and not only around it, but in the perimeter, just to keep things spawning back in. And there's more trees here. Look, there's so many ovies out here. This is definitely a fantastic place for mutton. My goodness. We have a couple different plateaus kind of weaving in and out of the shoreline here. Trees sporadically, some more stone, and again these odd rocks that are usually around the Dragon's Trench or the World Scar and Scorched Earth. But here it's actually on the shoreline, so it's odd, but I mean it is part of the Highlands here. Gold nodes, and as you can see here on the edge of the Highlands that butts up against the shore, the sea I should say, there's a pathway that leads up to the lighthouse. I don't think there's anything really going on here, at least not yet. This is a feature like the King's Gulch Castle, the Haunted Castle I think they called it. And at the top of the lighthouse here you can still place objects, foundations. I do believe this does take bonus damage up here. Working our way from the lighthouse to the cliff edge to the shoreline, you can see just below the lighthouse here on this hexagon shore, we'll call this for lack of a better term, we can see, I think this is called Nessie's Cave. I'm not sure what this cave's function is. I don't see any resources in here, but this does have access from the ocean inland here, so this could be a great place to stash any boats, motorboats initially, especially since a lot of people are unfamiliar with this map. I don't even see resources under the water. Are there any cracks or anything we can go into? Nope. So I don't know what they're going to do with this in the future, but definitely a cool cave. I don't know if this takes bonus damage or not, but we'll give you the chords for this. And we'll move out to the shoreline. And again, you can see the lighthouse right there. And there's Red Op. That should do it for this episode, this exploration episode of Ragnarok, the Highlands Zone. Check back soon, check back often for our final installment of the Ragnarok exploration series called the Canyons Zone. That'll be hopefully just before this is released for console on July 19th. Don't forget to subscribe, not only for our content here, our videos, but also for notifications for our streams. We will be streaming this, Ragnarok, when it does come out for the consoles. That'll be awesome. And I think the same day this comes out for the consoles, Destiny 2 Beta for Xbox One will be released. So we're going to be juggling between both Ragnarok and Destiny 2. And don't forget, I've got other series running on my channel. I've got the BoiFriendSquad PvP series and the always choice, always classic, the Saga of Server 49. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.